I want to begin with Democratic Congressman from Virginia, Eugene Vindman, who is a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, I'm very glad to speak with you this evening because, as you know, there's a lot we do not know yet. Where do you stand on this so-called memorandum of understanding?
Well, I start with the deal isn't signed yet. We don't know fully what's in it, but we know for sure that this has cost the American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. American lives have been lost, and prices at the pump and at the grocery store have skyrocketed. So the Republicans seem to be celebrating what is in effect a very bad deal that has left the United States in a much worse position than when we started this war.
Without knowing all the details, how can you be sure that it would put us in a worse position? Or is it the fact that you think that we've gotten to this point unnecessarily only to get even the most nominal gains?
Absolutely. This was not a necessary war. The president got us into a war without a plan. And we know from, based on the leaks that we've seen from the Iranian side and from the U.S. side, including statements from J.D. Vance, who talked about some sort of $300 billion reconstruction plan, that this has all the outlines of a terrible deal. What we have is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before this conflict started. The outlines of this deal do not seem to address the drone program or the ballistic missile program. It leaves the issue of nuclear weapons off to the side for negotiation in a future deal. And in the meantime, it grants sanctions relief and relief from a blockade. So to me, all the outlines of this deal sound pretty bad for the American people, for U.S. leadership, and for our Middle East allies.
I'll be very curious as to when they would release the specifics, because obviously the things you've mentioned, I can't imagine people overjoyed by those prospects, and yet we don't have the information, which just boggles the mind. But let me ask you this, Congressman, because Axios reports that the Trump cabinet officials see people like Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, John Ratcliffe. They are skeptical of Iran's intentions, even about a final deal. Now, Vance insists the U.S. has the leverage, though, but does that concern you that this requires some level of trust with Iran?
Look, the only thing worse than this deal, the framework of the deal that we understand right now, is the war continuing under the leadership of this president and this administration. What we've seen has been a complete fumbling of this conflict. They seem to mistake the fact that the magnificent work by the U.S. military at the tactical and operational level does not substitute for a strategy on how to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and how to end the conflict. And so I'm not surprised that there's already some skepticism about the deal. I think the push for the deal has been largely to get an announcement by the president's birthday, which was yesterday. So we'll see what happens. But we do know for a fact that in the meantime, the American people have borne the high cost of this war, both in blood and in treasure. And I don't think that we've seen the full cost of this war yet.
Let's talk about cost, or sanctions, to be more precise. I mean, the agreement, it relies on sanctions relief that, frankly, Republicans have spent years condemning. The vice president, J.D. Vance, says that Iran will have to meet their end of the bargain to get any kind of financial relief. But the fact that the administration might even be open to this concession, I wonder, how are your Republican colleagues squaring that reality with their past criticism?
Look, what you hear in public is very different than you hear in private. I've had conversations with senior Republicans that acknowledge the fact that there are no good options here and that it didn't have to be this way. And what that means is that we didn't have to be involved in this conflict. And you raise a really excellent point on sanctions. Sanctions have been implemented by legislation. That means Congress acted. That means Congress will have to act to lift the sanctions. And I, for one, am not going to vote for a terrible deal that does not address the nuclear program, that does not make the Middle East more secure, that does not have freedom of navigation and free passage in the Strait of Hormuz. And so I think there's going to be a great deal of skepticism. This is just the beginning of this is just the beginning of the negotiation. This is not the end of the negotiation.
Congressman Eugene Vindman, thank you.